you all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton. I'm super excited because today we are talking about my favorite books from 2024. I read 95 books. It's the 28th. I don't think I'm gonna finish another book. And I have a stack of 10 books that I'm so excited to talk about. Out of the 95 books, these have stuck with me. I've thought about them a lot. I've thought about a few of them quite a lot. I loved all of them. There's some new favorites. I had a blast with these books. I cannot recommend them enough to you. I love these books so much. Without further ado, let's talk about my favorite reads from 2024. So there's not really any order for these until maybe the top 3, top 2. Oh, I'm so excited. I read this book twice. It is a graphic novel. It's my favorite graphic novel I've read this year. It made me cry. It's so beautiful. I'm so glad I heard about this. I'm so glad I picked it up. And that is The Magic Fish by Trung Le Nguyen. This is a YA graphic novel. It's about this little boy. His parents are Vietnamese immigrants and he knows more English than they do growing up in America. He starts to develop this crush on another boy in his class and he doesn't know how to tell his parents that he is gay because there's not really a word for it in Vietnamese. And so he turns to fairy tales, which him and his mom read every night, to try and communicate to them that he is gay. Also, some of the book is detailing his mom's life and how she got to America and what she had to go through as an immigrant that I thought were really beautiful. The illustrations and the color palettes, oh, like, hold on. Look at that. Like, what a talent. This made me tear up. This made me so emotional. I just love it so much. Not only is it a really moving, deep, sweet, cozy, and emotionally packed story, it's also beautifully illustrated. Like, I cannot get over some of this artwork. It just, like, ticks all the boxes for me. I just loved it so much. You can read it in one sitting. I read it in two. I read it and then I read it again like the next day because I just couldn't get it out of my head and I just wanted to stare at the beautiful illustrations. It's very unique. It's super powerful. It's super beautiful. I highly recommend picking this up if you see it. Okay, the next book I talked about at length in my last wrap-up video and I have not been able to stop thinking about this book. It was an emotional ride. It's one of the most intense horror stories I've ever read, and the imagery with the horror is astounding. Like, out of this world, like, so much imagination, so much scale to the story. You're gonna hear that again. Like, the scale to all these books that I picked, not just like the main story, but the scale with like the characters or the world building or the imagery just blew me away. And that book is Between Two Fires by Christopher Buhlman. This is about a disgraced knight in the 1300s during the Black Plague. And he comes across this village that's been completely decimated, and the only survivor is this young girl who says that she sees angels and she needs to get to Avignon. They're in France. She needs to get to Avignon. She holds the key to stop all of this because what is happening right now with the Black Plague, it's going to get so much worse. Hell is coming. And Thomas, the knight, is like, I don't know, I can't just leave you here, so I guess you have to come with me. And it's so great. It's so impactful. It's so emotional. The horror, like, I think, I don't know if you can tell, but all the dark red tabs is something like really horrific. And there's quite a few. I want to say like the last 150 pages like knocked my socks off. Such good horror. It's like a blend of like my favorite things, like horror, medieval, quest, like, oh man. I would say this would be an amazing A24 movie, but I don't know if they could do it because I don't know if they could do it well because it's a rough read. It is a tough read. Like, all the trigger warnings, like, buckle up if you decide to pick this up. It took me a minute to get into because his writing there's a little bit of a humor and lightness to it, which sometimes I don't really like with fantasy or horror because I feel like it's really distracting, but I didn't mind it as much in this, and once I got used to it, like, I just didn't want to put this down. I love the story so much. I love the characters. You care about the characters so much. I loved this. I will definitely be picking up more Christopher Buhlman very soon because I know he has other books out and I think he's an author for me. Alright, the next book is one of 2 romances on this list. It is what started it all, and I've talked about it a lot. It is what got me into reading romance this year. This and the other book on this list were my favorite romances that I read this year, and that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. It's so cute. It's so good. It's spicy. It's funny. It's so sweet. Like, the communication is all so believable. Even the miscommunication is believable. The characters are so believable. I felt so strongly for all of them in the friend group in Bright Falls. This, like, I wanted to, like, dive in. This is about Delilah Green, who she's a pretty well-known photographer in New York and living her artsy city life. And she is called back to Bright Falls, Oregon by her estranged sister and stepmother because the sister is getting married and she asked Delilah to photograph the wedding. Delilah never wanted to go back. She hated this place. Her dad passed away while she was there and she never grew a connection with her sister and her stepsister and stepmother. During the 2 weeks of the wedding festivities, Delilah and the maid of honor, Claire, who is her sister's best friend, start like having some feelings for each other, and it just kind of goes from there. And there's obviously like wedding hijinks and bridesmaid hijinks that just like, it was just like, it reminded me of like a Nora Ephron movie, or like kind of like Parent Trap humor, if that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm describing this well. It just felt like a rom-com that I grew up with like in the 90s that I don't know how to describe this. It's just like everything worked for me in this. Everything worked. And I really want to finish this series so bad. I have one book left. I have Iris Kelly, who is one of the friend. So all the books are set in Bright Falls, and they are centered around the friend group with Delilah and her sister Astrid in this town. And it's delightful. It's really sweet. If you have seen this, I highly recommend. If you have not really read romance before or don't really care to, give this a shot. It was really good. It's so unabashedly gay, and I love it so much. The next book this is one of my favorite horror books I read this year, alongside Between Two Fires. Man, I love a period piece horror so much. I love an unhinged woman. I love female rage. I read this book so fast. One of my favorite releases from this year is Grey Dog by Elliot Gish. Oh my god. Man, I can't recommend this enough. I cannot reach through the screen and plop this in your hand. Like, I wish I could. Take my word for it. This is like checked all the boxes for me in terms of horror storytelling and like format. I really love the diary and letter format. Epistolary? It says in the last video, someone corrected me. I don't want to look it up, I'm sorry, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this is set in 1901 following a school marm named Ada Bird, who has been reassigned again after a scandal to this very small little village, hamlet, surrounded by these woods. It's not really a place anyone wants to be, but her dad pulls some strings and she is here and she is grateful and she's trying to make it work. But then Ada starts to hear voices. She starts to hear something in the woods. She starts to hear something calling to her. And little by little, she starts to absolutely lose her mind. Or is she losing her mind? Or something truly out there in the woods. I don't want to talk too much about it because I feel like the more blind you go in, the more you probably like it. I will definitely read more Elliot Gish. Hands down. This next book took me by complete surprise. I normally don't read thrillers, or I don't read them a ton, because I feel like they kind of like do the same thing over and over and over again, and it's not very entertaining for me after a certain point. This got me out of my reading slump. I can't believe this is a debut. I can't believe I don't see more people talking about this book because I inhaled it. I stayed up super late reading it to finish it because I couldn't put it down. It was terrifying. It was so compelling. It felt so real. It felt so possible that something like this could happen. And it also felt like we're not that far away from something like this happening. And that book is Artificial Wisdom by Thomas R. Weaver. This is a techno thriller set in the year 2050, and the Earth's climate has completely gone off the track. It's gone. Climate disasters are a common occurrence. There's massive heat waves that just pop up all over the place, and one that had happened 4 years previous in the Persian Gulf that killed the main character's wife. His name is Marcus Tully. He's a very famous investigative reporter. He gets notice from a whistleblower that heat wave that killed his wife and killed millions of others was not any ordinary climate disaster. The whistleblower lets him know that it was possible, that it was man-made, that it was constructed for mass genocide. Also at the same time, there is a worldwide race for a new dictator. A worldwide dictator. One of the top candidates being a full AI candidate, because they don't think that a human can be able to react thoughtfully and with enough time to all the stuff that's going on with climate change and disasters. They need someone who's like a computer. Horrifying, right? So all of this is building, building, building. There's a mystery, a murder mystery aspect to it. The setting is so unique. The characters, it's so fast paced. It was like watching a movie. Like, I want this to be a movie or a limited series, whatever, because it was so cinematic. It was playing a picture in my head. Could not put it down. I inhaled this. I love it. I want to read more sci-fi now because of this. I really didn't read that much this year. I definitely want to read more. Definitely want to read more techno thrillers because super fun. Yes, pick this up. Pick this up. Pick this up. Okay, and next is the other romance on this list that completely stole my heart, stole my brain space. I loved everything about it. I loved the characters. I loved their banter. I loved their romance. And that book is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Oh my god. Oh my god. It was so cute. It was so good. It's the second Emily Henry book I've read. I also read Happy Place earlier this year, which I didn't think was going to be dethroned until I read Funny Story. This is about Daphne and Peter, who, unfortunately, have been broken up with, and their exes have left them for each other. And Daphne needs a place to stay, so she moves in with Peter. Like, leave it to Emily Henry. She wrote Peter as a pothead who loves sappy love ballads and is responsible, a good communicator, and just an overall sweetheart Labrador retriever. Emily, you are an amazing writer of fiction. And I also love Daphne. Daphne is a librarian who really loves reading. She loves books. They've changed her life. And like, I connected with both of them in different ways. And I just love Daphne's story so much because I really felt for her as a character. I just like, this book felt like a hug to me in so many ways because it was just like, man, I have obviously never was in this situation, but their character and their development and just like how they are with each other, I love it because I think it reminded me of me and Luke. Like how easy everything is when you find the right person, and just like how all the pieces fall into place. Even when something breaks apart, everything will fall into place. Like, it's just so good. It's just so good. It made me laugh. It made me tear up. It just, Emily Henry, I need to read all of your books now. I think I will like all of them. I hope I like all of them. And then I have a book that also surprised me. It made me very emotional. This is a very emotional book. This is a very heavy book, regardless of what the cover tells you. This is a pretty heavy, hefty, emotional, sad, but hopeful book. I needed this book this year. Like, I needed it. And that book is The Wedding People by Alison S. Potch. This is about Phoebe who rolls up to this beautiful, beautiful hotel on the coast of Rhode Island. Seaside views, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hotel. She comes there with a very specific purpose in mind. What she doesn't know when she gets there is that she is the only non-wedding guest. Week-long wedding affair. And Phoebe develops a very close relationship with the bride. She kind of gets wrapped up into all the wedding shenanigans that go on for the week. This is just a week of Phoebe being an outsider, but also she becomes so much part of this wedding. And the bride, my favorite part of this book was the banter between the bride and Phoebe. I cannot remember the bride's name right now, but I just love their banter so much. Like the drama and the gossip, the entanglements of everyone, including Phoebe, and Phoebe's story and how she feels so stuck in life and life's not going anywhere, and she feels like people are like lapping her in life, or if there is such a thing, how plans change and how you adapt to those changes. Again, like kind of like Funny Story, like when your life is like completely shattered and the work you need to do, as well as just waiting for life to fall into place. It was just so moving. It made me so emotional. I had to put this down for a few days because I was like getting like really bad mental health days, but yeah, I thought this was beautiful. I thought it was breathtakingly beautiful. Like Phoebe, I don't want to tear up. Phoebe, like she's such an enormous heart, and I have felt so lost this year. And so just to the wind and so unmoored. And I connected with Phoebe so damn much. And to see Phoebe, her journey throughout, and like the conversations that are had, the deep conversations that are had, the hard conversations that are had, were so moving to me. Yeah, love this book. Okay, we're getting to the top three. A big surprise for me as well. I cannot recommend this enough if you can stomach it. It's a doozy. I love my disturbing ass shit. Oh, yeah, this one's no exception. This is The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis. Holy hell. I read this in October. And it took up so much of my brain space. Like, I was obsessed with this book. I was thinking about it constantly. Okay, this is, bear with me with this synopsis. This is about Bret Easton Ellis, the author, while he's in his senior year at Buckley Prep in Beverly Hills. He is kind of working on Lesson Zero. He's also partying, doing a lot of drugs, and hiding a big part of his sexuality. That he is bisexual. He doesn't really want anyone to know, and he keeps a lot of trysts away from the public. To Bret, it was like the absolute worst thing ever if people knew. That all being said, during the senior year, there is a serial killer loose in Los Angeles called the Trawler. He starts taunting Bret and his friends. Primarily Bret. Also, there's the arrival of a mysterious new student called Robert Mallory, who Bret becomes obsessed with. And he also is obsessed with this idea that Robert may be the Trawler. It doesn't look very long here. It's like over 600. It's almost 600 pages. I flew through this. I could not get enough of it. I loved how it was written. Oh, sorry. It's completely fictionalized. None of this happened. There was never a serial killer stalking Bret Easton Ellis. There was never a serial killer called the Trawler. It's all fiction. But it reads like it happened. It reads like a man haunted by what happened to him and his friends when he was in high school. Loved how it was written. I loved how it was structured. It truly felt like Bret was sitting across from you telling you this horrible story about when he was a senior in high school and all this burden that he's had to carry and trauma he's had to carry all these years. Like, I loved it, but I definitely want to read his backlog. Whew. But buckle up. Much like other books on this list, trigger warnings galore. There's a few parts that made me so nauseous, but I didn't want to stop reading because I wanted to know and just fly through this. Oh my god, I'm so excited to talk about this book! I haven't talked about it yet because I just finished it a couple weeks ago, and it's skyrocketed to the number 2 spot on my list. And I inhaled this book. I love these characters. I love this world. I love the scale of this world. Everything I wanted in a fantasy novel. That is Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. This is book 2 in the Empire of the Vampire series. Book 3 is hopefully coming out in 2025, according to the author. This is just... I want to this is so good. This is so good. Okay, so this is a continuation from book 1, Empire of the Vampire. This follows Silver Saint Gabrielle de Leon, who is part of this holy order called the Silver Saints. They're half vampire, which means they can have the strength and recovery to fight actual vampires during this time that's going on called Day's Death, where there's very little sun or no sun and vampires run rampant. The lore that Jay Kristoff creates with the world and the vampires and their clans and their powers and what can stop them. In the first book, Gabrielle de Leon finds out there may be a way to end Day's Death, and that is to find the Holy Grail. The location of the Grail is held secret by this young, very talented thief called Dior LeChance. I loved their banter so much in book 1, even more in book 2, and there's more characters and more. It felt book 1 is a very big prologue. For the first chunk of the book, there's a lot of world building, there's a lot of backstory, there's a lot of character groundwork that is laid. Book 2 just turns it up to 20. Off the rails, so much action. I loved how the fight scenes were written. I loved how do I even describe this? The vampiric power, their system and their powers and who could do what. I loved all the characters, even the bad ones. I loved the bad ones because of how well they're written. The dialogue's written so well. The world building is amazing. I cannot wait for book 3. I'm going to reread them both. I absolutely inhaled the series. They are not short books. And I could not put them down. I didn't want to put them down. I wanted to be with these characters. This book could have been 1,000 more pages. I would have been a happy, happy girl. It was really hard because this almost got into my favorite book. This is they're neck and neck, maybe a hair off of each other. Alright, I think you all know what my favorite book of the year is. I'm not going to prolong it by any means. And that book is this brick. It is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This book, I'm spanking it. Why am I... This brick. Read this in March. Think about this book a lot. I think about these characters a lot. I think about, this was I think my first epic fantasy book I read, because I really didn't start reading fantasy till like a year and a half ago. So this was my first full year of reading more fantasy, and this was my first like epic fantasy. Look at all these tabs. It looks like confetti cake. A queer, feminist, high fantasy set in a world where there's two different types of people, really. We're two different sides to the world, the East and the West. One who revere dragons and think they are gods and want connections with them, think they are there for good. And then there's the other side who think dragons are evil, they're from hell, they must be stopped and extinguished at all costs. And we follow three women. Sabran, who is the queen, who needs to produce an heir. She needs to produce an heir or the whole world will collapse, so she's like having pressure for that. Her handmaiden Ede is a highly talented mage who is placed next to Sabran to protect her at all cost. And then there's Tane from the East, who is a dragon rider. And at the beginning of the book, Tane has to make a choice that will completely change the course of her life if she goes through with it. It's so funny because I almost DNF'd this book like 3 times within the first 100 pages because she throws so much at you. No life preserver, nothing. Like, there is an extensive glossary in this book. The sheer amount of work that went into this world, the history of this world, and the characters and the different regions. It's so massive. And I will say, this is a more character-driven fantasy, a lot like Robin Hobb. There is some action, but I don't think this is like Empire of the Damned, or like it's not super action-packed. It's a lot about the character's journey, how they develop throughout the book and over time. I don't know what else to say. It's just, I can't really hold this up anymore. Worked for me on every single level, and I am getting a mic. I swear I'm gonna get a mic. I'm so sorry. The little one on my camera, you can still hear this shit. It just completely bowled me over. When I set it down, when I was like almost DNFing it, I kept coming back. I kept coming back because I wanted to be with these characters and be in this world because it was so well written. If it looks intimidating, it is. It's pretty intimidating. It's not an easy book at the beginning, but once you get like very situated within the world and the characters and their motivations, like I flew through it. I can hug this book even. It's so big. The prequel right here. And then Samantha Shan announced there's a very short book that's part of the series. Is it a prequel? I think it's set like, I need to look again, but hold on. I'm just gonna hold this right here. So Day of Fallen Night is 0. Like that takes place before this. And then this is 0.5. Among the Burning Flowers is a short prequel to Priory of the Orange Tree. I forgot, is it like 200? It's 200 pages. Alright, yeah, because I know she's working on the next book in the full series of this. I can't wait to see what she does next. I really can't. Like, I want to read the Bone season now. Alright, I'll stop gabbing. Those are my favorite books I read this year. What's your favorite book you read this year, or favorites that you've read this year? I would love to know down below. I would love to do a video reading your favorite books, so please put them down below. I cannot wait to hear about them. Have you read any of the books on my list? Like, what did you think? And I also want to take a moment to just thank you all. I started this channel, I uploaded my first video in November last year. So I've been on BookTube a little bit over a year, and it's grown to almost 6,000 of you. It's so funny. I have my little vision board that I make every year, and next to like the YouTube icon, there's like a little 100, because I was like, oh my god, it'd be so amazing if I had 100 subscribers, and here I am with almost 6,000. That's a lot of you. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so grateful. I love chatting with you all about books. Good books, bad books, what you thought of books. I love, even like, if we don't agree, that's still fine. I just love chatting books. I love gabbing with you all. I'm just so thankful that you all are here. And I have so many big plans next year. I have so many different ideas. I'm just so happy that this little hobby has been such a bright spot in my life. Such a good creative outlet for me when I haven't felt very creative this year. So I just wanted to thank you all from like the bottom of my heart. Just thank you so much for being here. And with that, I don't want to cry. I'm not gonna cry. Anyway, alright. Thank you so much for clicking. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll have a new video for you soon. Bye!